All right, YouTube, this is 2 Cent back with my 2 cents on OCTOPATH Traveler, and we are getting another new unit. It's going to be Primrose. We are going out of order again, and I just want to take a moment just to say there really is no order for global of when we're going to get units. We're just referring to when the other regions, the order in which they got units, they have specifically told us up front not to expect the same order. So don't worry about that. Don't expect that to be what's going to happen. So when you're pulling units, go into it with a mind of you just don't know what's going to be coming next. Tomorrow could be a collab for all we know. I mean, obviously we're getting Primrose instead, but you know what I mean. Now let's kind of just look at her and see whether or not you might want to pull her, because I do think she is just a straight upgrade to our current 5-star Lynette. And so I do feel bad for people who maybe re-rolled a bunch and got Viola in Lynette, and and honestly, that team's not bad. You're not going to be sad about it. But if you were thinking that later on you were going to pick up Primrose, then you kind of have somebody doing double duty here. You could utilize them both on the same team to keep up buffs for you, and we do have Lynette being a fire unit, and Primrose is going to be a dark element. And what's going to be nice is when we look at her kit, she's got access to being able to buff attack and defense, and also attack, magic, and speed, which is different than Lynette's. We got that defense and magic defense and that speed there. It's going to be extra nice. But then we also have access to a 3-hit, for dark damage, and we're going to have access to her passive that's going to increase the buff duration by 1 turn. So it's going to help stave off having to keep reapplying those buffs, which just means it's just more damage that you can output, or switching, to making sure that you're breaking more. She's got that access to the 4x fan, and there's quite a few enemies that are, have that weakness to fan. So that's, I think, going to be really nice to her. So let's just see stat-wise how she kind of compares to Lynette. Okay, here we have Lynette's stats, and you can see by the green indicators, this is the ones in which Primrose exceeds her stats in those categories. So she's got more SP, she's got more magic, and she's got more speed, at least at her base here for comparing these two units. So that's going to be, pretty nice as your buffer to be able to get out in front of your units to kind of buff them up. And then also, the extra SP as you keep using it. We all know what that's for. But, for the dark damage she's putting out, she's going to be able to put out a little bit more on the rough damage there. But her crit is significantly lower, so I think the crit is probably going to make that pretty even as far as the damage output is concerned, just between the two of them, and taking the buffs aside from that. So, and then, here we have Lynette's sort of like big factors for her kit. So when you're kind of comparing having that fire 3 times, and then fan 3 times, and then a self up, kind of critical, and then switching to add that 10% attack and magic for 1 turn for your front allies. So you can see that Lynette obviously is a good buffer, and she's going to be good for your team if you already have her. But I think Primrose is going to be the better unit on down the road. Okay, so the big question, should you pull? It's a resounding yes. I am going to say that if you're holding off and you're kind of waiting for collabs, that's fine too. But I would like to just kind of stress out there that having a buffer is really good for your team, and it's one of the things that I'm missing the most is a good dedicated buffer. I have a fan unit. I'm using Iris. She's 4-star, and I really like the way that Iris can kind of use some ice damage and being able to use her 3 fan attack, and everything is really nice. But I don't have a good buffer on my team, and I already have access to ice damage with Sophia, and so I would like some access to some dark spells here that I think would be really nice. And then just to be able to buff up the rest of my team, I think would go a long way for my account as well. And having access to the 4-hit fan would be great as well. So I'm going to probably put, at least like 1 or 2 pulls towards this. I don't want to blow my stash all the way, because I do think a collab is sooner rather than later. But that would be my suggestion for each of you, is maybe you're just throwing like 1 or 2 pulls at this banner. See if you get lucky. There will obviously be other units in the future. She's going to go into the standard pool of units, and so you could just end up pulling her later on when you're, pulling for the collab unit. So there is that to keep in mind. So don't break your bank doing it. And that's been my 2 cents.